Hi everyone, my name's Nirav, and in this video I'm going to show you how my family travelled from Sydney to Melbourne via Echuca, Moama and some other interesting destinations along the way in my MG4 77 long range electric car, charging just on open access Tesla Superchargers. This is a stop at Mittagong where we just paused to have a stretch and I needed a snack. We should end up at Yass Tesla chargers with about 37% left. Let's see. Long range, fast DC and fast AC charging make my MG4 77 the perfect budget long distance car for holidays. It doesn't have autopilot, but it does have cruise control, and that's enough for me. Starting from 100% battery at home in inner west Sydney, we ended up with 40% at Yass, plenty spare as you could see. All 12 bays were full and 2 cars were waiting, but that's okay. Tesla Superchargers are so fast that cars leave every few minutes. Thankfully, MG4s are designed to work with open access Tesla Superchargers, and my car has a nice fast DC fast charging rate, well over 100 kilowatts. My plan for charging the car between Sydney and Albury was to charge once. The day before leaving for our trip, I had already paid Tesla $9.99 monthly membership for their superchargers to get the same price per kilowatt hour as Tesla owners do. It's well worth it if you're going to use Tesla Superchargers to charge your EV more than once during a long road trip for a large battery refill. As soon as you set the monthly subscription up, you can immediately cancel it and enjoy the benefits for the next 30 days without having to worry about it auto-renewing when you don't need it. It was a really hot day with mid-30-degree temperatures, but the MG4 air conditioning performed well, which is pretty standard for Chinese cars. And also we were really glad we got the car ceramic tinted for side windows and back to the maximum New South Wales limit. I always stop at Evie Tarcutta for an ice cream. I felt really sorry for the 10 EVs queued up there because of broken chargers. They would have had to wait at least an hour or two. If you have time to spare on your drive and you have kids or just an interest in submarines, stop at Holbrook because there's actually a huge submarine there in the park, right close to the NRMA charger. Well worth a stop and have a look. We've arrived at Cottage Motor Inn in Albury, and all we had to do was charge once at Tesla Yass. Our EV trip from Sydney to Melbourne, day one, has started really well. We began at 100% in Sydney and arrived at Albury with 21%. Along the way, we only needed to charge once at the Tesla Supercharger in Yass to 90%. And we stopped a few other times for toilet breaks and, of course, snacks. I must admit, I love snacks. Anyway, that was really good. And I'm glad we have this MG4 77 long range. I really think that for EV road tripping that's low stress, you need to have an EV that's more than 500 kilometers WLTP range. It just takes out so much stress because, as I just mentioned today, we only needed to DC fast charge once while we were having lunch. So we were stopped anyway while we were eating. We're at the Cottage Motor Inn in Albury, and the owner there is very clever. He invested in a wallbox EV charger a couple of years ago, subsidized by the New South Wales state government. That means our MG4 77 long range is happily charging away at 7 kilowatts rate, and it should be full well before we wake up in the morning, even though we've only got 21% of the battery left at the moment. Happy days. Now on tomorrow to the Murray River and Echuca Moama. Let's see how well that goes. I stopped briefly at RACV Barnawartha North on the Chargefox network to show you their new ChemPower chargers, which look quite good, and also the shelter shed nearby and all the solar panels used to help power the ChemPower chargers. How awesome. Now that we've turned off the Hume Highway, we're on the Murray Valley Highway, which is 1 lane each way and reasonably good condition. I couldn't resist taking a video of my MG4 at the entrance to Cactus Country. Yes, real life huge cactus field in the middle of Victoria. Who knew? Well, actually, I had planned to come here in advance because I'd seen it on Gardening Australia a while ago. There's huge and small cactus of all kinds with flowers and plenty of other things for adults and children to see. You'll have a great day if you like dry, arid gardens and cactus succulents. I fast charged in Shepparton to 90% while my family went shopping because I didn't want to fast charge in Echuca, Moama. Our accommodation cabin at NRMA Echuca was really great but didn't have on-site charging. If you're wondering why I like to stay in caravan parks with my family in a nice cabin while we're on EV road trips, it's because we like to self-cater our meals, and you definitely wouldn't get this kind of experience suddenly getting a kookaburra coming to sit next to you while listening to a podcast on the veranda on a nice warm afternoon near the Murray River. That just does not happen if you're in a hotel room. Mentioning the Murray River, the main reason why we're staying at Echuca Moama was to get a ride on the paddle steamer Pevensey. Built in 1911, over a century ago, the PS Pevensey is special because it's an authentic paddle steamer with its original steam engine, and I'll show you the engine and paddles working in a second. What used to happen is, in the old days, the Pevensey would carry about 120 tons of cargo, collecting bales of wool from station properties all along the river, bringing them to Echuca Wharf, which was a major destination for exporting wool, which was loaded onto trains just next to the wharf and taken to Melbourne for shipping overseas. The Pevensey could hold 815 bales of wool and about 2,000 bales when barges were towed along beside it. Nowadays, trucks carry freight, and instead of wool bales, the Pevensey carries tourists up and down the Murray River. Viewers a bit older than me may remember the TV miniseries All the Rivers Run, made in Echuca in the early 1980s, and the Pevensey was featured heavily in that miniseries. Leaving Echuca Moama, we headed south via the road to Rochester, where I wanted to see painted silos. What are these, you say? Well, they're ex-silos usually used for grain in the past, and now, instead of grain, they have huge murals on them to try and attract tourists to the town. It's a thing that lots of rural towns across Australia are doing to try and get tourist interest and people to come and maybe buy a coffee and food or do something else in the town while they're there. As you can see, the artworks are very impressive at this location, with a possum, kingfisher, and platypus, and honey eater. Very impressive, and I don't know how the artists managed to get such photorealistic looks for such a huge mural. Driving onwards, we stopped at the Bendigo open access Tesla Supercharger for about 15 minutes for a toilet break and a snack, and that worked fine. During over 2,000 kilometres of driving in this trip, including country roads which didn't have edge road markings, we had no problems with phantom braking or lane keeping assist because we set lane keeping assist to alert, and front collision assist, once changed to alert sensitivity low, stays that way. Last stop before Melbourne was at the Tesla Kilmore open access supercharger because our family accommodation didn't have home charging or solar available. Driving onwards from Kilmore to Werribee in Melbourne, it was interesting to see the efficiency from Kilmore to Melbourne was quite good, and the efficiency from Echuca to Melbourne was pretty decent as well. So, was I able to drive my MG4 from Sydney to Melbourne without any problems, just using Tesla fast chargers? Yes, I was. It was easy. And now I'm filling up to 90% in Melbourne because my accommodation doesn't have a place to charge. And that'll easily take me part of the way back up the Hume Highway on our return journey to Sydney. Should be quite simple. Right, so this means that if you have a long-range electric car, like my MG4 77, You don't need to have a Tesla as long as you have enough range, more than 500 kilometers, WLTP ideally, to access the Tesla open access supercharger fast chargers. Now, you can use about half of the ones that Tesla has installed in Australia, and that's enough for long range cars like mine to be able to do Sydney to Melbourne in 2 stops. Please like, subscribe, and share. It'll really help me make more videos like this for you. Thanks, and bye.